Welcome to Work Mom Says.
Don't be an idiot.
And now, here's your host, Work Mom.
Hello, I'm Lori Jo Vest. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Work Mom Says, Don't Be an Idiot. Today, we're going to talk about making the best of where you are. There are times when you're in a position that you didn't really expect to have to take. You may have a job that is less than you feel you deserve. You may feel that you are too experienced for your job or should be making more money. All kinds of things can happen. However, sometimes you have to stick with that job that you're not so happy with for a little bit longer than you'd like. So, our guest today is Kyle Elsasser. Say hi, Kyle.
Hello.
26-year-old University of Michigan grad. He graduated in 2020 during the pandemic, and things were extremely difficult. And the place that he thought he was going to go right after college, that position evaporated. So he ended up taking what I would call a bridge job, meaning you take that job while you wait for something bigger and better to come along. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Tell us about what happened when you first graduated.
I had a internship with Mopar. I had everything lined up. Getting had an interview set up for the third week of March of 2020. That was quote unquote a formality to go move out of state and start a new job as a district manager. COVID happened. Said, oh, we'll just wait a few weeks. We'll wait a couple months. And here we are 5 years later.
Yeah, no kidding. So, what was your first position? What did you find out there, and how did you find it?
Well, again, I was originally intending to go work for Mopar, which is the service and parts division of FCA or Stellantis, Chrysler. Ended up taking a job as a express lane service advisor at a Chrysler dealer that my uncle was the general manager of. Just figured it'd be something to fill my time while we were waiting those couple of weeks to couple of months.
Couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years. So what was the position and what were your duties? What did you do?
So it was again an express lane service advisor, which basically means it's a big dealership. They have if you need to come in and get your oil changed, something quick, tire rotation, wheel alignment, what have you. You drive in the service lane, no appointments, and I was the guy that greeted you, set you up for your oil change, told you to go sit down and wait, and came and grabbed you when you were done.
Okay, so now fast forward 5 years. What are you doing now?
I am a service advisor for the main shop, right? Not doing oil changes and such. And I work for our premium brand of Alfa Romeo.
Okay. And Wagoneer too?
Uh, a little bit of backup Wagoneer stuff, mostly Alfa.
So tell me what the difference is in those two positions.
Express lane is very entry level. It's pretty standard. You don't take anything from day to day. It's just every customer that comes in, you say hi to them, tell them to sit down, and an hour later you go grab them, collect your $50 or whatever for the oil change, and see you later. Whereas what I'm doing now, I'm juggling every single Italian car that comes in that dealership from top to bottom, whether that is your oil change or whether that is your $40,000 engine that blew up, and keep your car for 6 months, and I handle the process from start to finish.
So one of the other differences is you make how much more money than you did when you first started?
Considerably more. Uh, that certainly does make a difference.
Two times, 3 times?
Somewhere between 2 and 3, yeah, for sure.
In 4.5 years, basically, you made that happen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
So, let me ask you, how did you decide to stay there, and how did you make this transition to a job that paid so much more and was so much more in keeping with who you are as as a college graduate, etcetera?
I mean, you start making $12 an hour again as a bridge job, right? I
Right.
kind of thought a little bit, I wanted to make the most of it, right? At the time, my going to be, real job would have been, it would have been valuable experience to have this, this little bit of express lane job,
Mhm.
job experience.
Okay, so how did you do it? What do you think made you different
Oh, yeah, that was what I was, yeah.
that allowed you to make that transition?
Yeah. So again, it was originally a bridge job to get a little bit of experience, but then I kind of realized there was more to it, right? There was the customer experience aspect of it. There was some small portion that was commission in that first part of it. And I decided I wasn't just going to use it as a something to do for a few months. I decided I actually might as well do something with it. Um, which again originally was to be able to take that experience into the next step at at Stellantis.
Mhm.
But over time, one that next step at Stellantis seemed further and further away, and two, I realized there actually really properly was more to it than
Mhm.
than just writing up oil changes, collecting my $12 an hour, and going home. As I said, the customer experience aspect of it is huge. That's something that's in the dealer industry is one of, if not the most important things. And I realized I
Mhm.
certainly did, had kind of a knack for it, I guess. Um, I saw what other advisors were doing in the main shop. I saw that there was potential to be had there, and then kind of carved out my spot as the customer experience guy, and actually ended up in a position that didn't exist, taking care of only the quote unquote premium customers that expect a little bit more
Mhm.
out of their service.
So, personally, how would you say you did that? What was it that took you from that, more entry level position to, you know, growing your income, growing your responsibility, growing your basically career in a job that you thought was going to be entry level and kind of just a stopping point along the way? What was it about you that made it possible for you to do that, do you think?
Uh, well, one thing, one of our managers that came in out of actually used to work for a Lexus store. They're very, very, very much into the again, quote unquote premium experience. He kind of, I kind of got closer with him, kind of understood how he did things, and we both, between me and him, got kind of came up with this position that didn't exist.
Mhm.
That's and then I also another side of it. It was this my mom, this lady that raised me, actually once wrote a book a long time ago about customer experience.
Really?
So I kind of had that in my in my head from the get go. So that really, I mean, really, that is the biggest difference is the actually keeping track of customer experience,
Yeah.
and making it a priority is what made this more of a possibility for me.
Now, to talk about customer experience, just for people who aren't as friend or as familiar with what we mean by that, what Kyle's talking about is when the customer comes into the dealership, that dealership is representing that entire organization to that customer. And that may be the only relationship that they have with the corporation through the dealership until it's time to buy another car. And if that experience isn't good, they'll go to a different dealership and potentially to another brand. So for an automotive manufacturer, that customer experience is a huge, huge thing. And Kyle, you even mentioned that they get discounts on the cars they purchase if they have good customer service scores in the service area.
Yeah, so I mean, it's highly incentivized by the manufacturer, and that's it's across the board in the entire auto industry. But part of the way that Chrysler does it is, or Stellantis does it, is if service scores at a certain dealership are at whatever level they want them to be at, they actually do discount their cars for the dealership. So I mean, you're talking $1,000, $2,000 on every single unit, just based off of if customers indicated they were happy during their oil change experience. So
Mhm.
it does make a big difference.
So customer surveys are a big deal, and they also basically what that means is the dealer buys a car for this much and they sell it for that much. If they can buy it from the manufacturer for, a couple $1,000s cheaper on every vehicle, that adds up. That adds up over time.
Pure profit.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like how they've done that, how they tied service to sales and how they are making sure that the dealers understand that that service aspect is really critical. But they've not traditionally that's always been a challenge in the dealerships to find the people that really understood or to train them. Maybe that's the issue. I'm not in that business, so I don't know, but training people on customer service and how to be what you naturally are can be really challenging. And what I would say is you appear to be really naturally service oriented and wanting to make sure that the customers are happy, that that's kind of part of who you are. Would you say that?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of, I mean, when I was an 8 year old, I was talking to my mom about her customer service book, right? I mean, that's one side of it, but also, I mean, I truly enjoy helping people with their cars. I mean, that makes a big difference. Actually, wanting to do the job. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're coming in with your, just for my example or whatever, your Alfa Romeo or whatever, your nice Italian car that you saved your money up for and you've always wanted, and oh, you got an engine light, and oh my God, that's a huge deal. I don't know what it is. I'm not a car guy. I just got my fancy Italian car. I'm happy to be that person to walk them through that, and we'll take care of it. We'll make it a seamless
Yeah.
process. You'll be back on the road in no time. I mean, that's something that's pretty fulfilling, actually.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
you're the car guy,
yeah, I mean, I
right?
get, yeah, I mean, I'm explaining things about cars to my friends and family. So I might as well do it for work too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. Well, I do think there's a lot to be said for that tie to what you're passionate about. Makes it easier to do a really good job when you enjoy it, and you've always been a car guy, so let's just veer off for a second. How many Mini Coopers do you have?
I have six, working
And how
on
many
seven,
have you had in the last 10
10.
years? 10, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the car guy getting into the car business really makes a lot of sense. Kyle just thought he was going to be more on the corporate side, helping the dealers from the corporate side. And
That was
instead, he's
original.
actually boots on the ground helping the customers, which is, I would beg to say that was almost more important to the manufacturer's success than anything else. Okay, so let's talk about what do you think what mindset did you have when you took this job that allowed you to continue to grow and turn this into something better?
Yeah, I
Wait,
mean,
hold on.
I wasn't intending to, to be there forever, but it really did start with, hey, I wanted to be, I wanted to actually make this not, not quote unquote important, just bridge job and use it as something that would be good experience for what I thought my real job would be. I mean, that's
Mhm.
really where it started. I could have just collected my paycheck and just waited, sat
Right.
around until the actual job showed up, but I thought it could be something useful.
Right.
Um, and just in doing that, that's kind of when I realized that I wouldn't have to skip out to the corporate side. I could actually make something useful out of what I was doing.
Mhm.
And then additionally, also, I mean, again, I mentioned that my uncle was the one who was the GM at the time. He's
Mhm.
since retired, but when I had him in my back pocket, telling me, hey, that there is something to this. Don't you don't try, give the dealership, the franchise side of it a shot, because there is there's certainly a career,
Mhm.
plenty of careers to be had in that side of the industry as well. So I
Mhm.
took that knowledge and kind of just again, rather than just sitting around and waiting for my quote real job to come in, to come up, I decided to make the most of it and see what I could do.
Well, you just nailed it. What you said when we were preparing for this recording was you chose to make this a career, not a job.
Yeah,
And when you choose to even take that first what I'd call piddly little job that you don't necessarily want and do your absolute best. How many people do you hear that are CEO that started off as the receptionist or
yeah,
started off in the mailroom or started off, you're going through the ranks of the service department and learning how it works from that, entry level position. So we also talked about being promotable. What does that mean to you, Kyle?
I mean, I guess showing willingness and ability to do more than what you're doing,
Hmm.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's in my one biggest, I'm not very far in my career or whatever in terms of time, but in my one proper promotion of going from a very replaceable job to something that hadn't existed before. I mean, that was really what it came down to was, I was talking to management saying, hey, this, I don't want to do this forever, but I want to see what I can do with this company,
Hmm.
and then having the the numbers and results to prove it. And,
Mhm.
when that position appeared, that was it was I was the one to do it.
Mhm.
That's something
And
I really miss.
a couple things I'd highlight as we talk about this is that when you go into a job with the mindset that it's a career, I would say you're more earnest, you're more enthusiastic, you're more likely to present your best self than you would if you were just going to your job,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Just do
And
something to pay bills.
and you mentioned that, and in that side of things, there's a lot of people out there that are telling young professionals that, we need to be authentic. Be as authentic as you can. That's what people like. And there's a lot to be said for that. But being yourself at the office is different than being your best self at the office, right? So, how would you say when you go into work every day, you're your best self? Because you mentioned some things to me when we were talking earlier about that you just have a different attitude no matter how the other person is acting. So, tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean that especially comes into play with the job that I'm doing. I mean you're not uh, customers typically aren't walking up to my desk thrilled to be there, usually because their car is broken, right? So I mean the biggest thing is just approaching the day with a smile on your face. I mean it sounds a little bit goofy, a little bit I don't know, cliche or whatever, but especially in a customer facing job, I mean that is what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it's hey Mr. Customer, and I recognize you're not really thrilled to be here, but let's figure this out. Let's make this as as the least inconvenience we can, and we'll get you back going.
Hmm.
I don't, I'll be honest, I don't approach every single person in my daily life with a with a big bright smile and a hello, but
Well, yeah.
at work I do.
But
So
when you're getting paid to do it, you do
sure,
it.
yeah, exactly, yeah, it's that's yeah,
I mean, that's the thing that I think some people don't maybe forget, earlier in their careers is that when you're being paid to work, it's not just your performance in your job. It's not just your work product that should be the result of that. It should also be your work persona. And we talked about how when you create really connected positive relationships with everybody you work with, even the crabby ass people, you're going to end up being better able to perform your job. And you mentioned somebody
yeah,
that isn't necessarily friendly every day, but you've taken an approach to him that makes him easier to work with, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, we've got all kinds of different folks at the dealership level, right? I mean, from there are plenty of folks that are just there to get through the slog and do the job, and that's it.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to work with everybody. You got to be able to, again, as it is, as I said, smile and hello, and that makes a big difference because when I I need this job out of this technician, to get done or whatever. If I'm the guy that's always having a brief chat with them and asking how they're doing or whatever, they're a little more likely to work with me, even if they are you know the less cooperative type of
Yeah.
person.
I would say you earn their reciprocity,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
and I help them out too. I mean, if they need if they need something from one advisor and that advisor is either busy or having a crap day and doesn't feel like helping, I absolutely step up for stuff that's absolutely not my job.
Yeah.
And truly, as someone that's only paid on commission, I'm literally handing out my time. Here you go. Let me take a few minutes to help you. I don't get
Yeah.
anything out of it, but that's and that makes a difference in a workplace, right? I'm spending
It
40, 50
does.
hours with these people every single week. You might as well get along with everybody.
Yeah. And that's the key too is getting along with everybody. You can't pick people you do or don't get along with.
Yeah,
Everyone that works there deserves your positive performance. And if they don't deliver their side of the bargain, oh well,
yeah. I
that's
mean, that's what
them.
it is. Yeah,
And you'll still find the crabbiest people will go the extra mile for you because you've been kind to them for so long. I've seen that over and over and over. People are like, "You got that person to do what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was just really nice to her for a really long time, and before you
yeah.
know it, I could get her to do whatever I wanted."
It's a while sometimes. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
reciprocity, people appreciate it when you are kind. Even especially people I think that are seriously maybe crabby all the time, not very many people are kind to them. So when you stand out as repeatedly kind, it makes a difference. It really does in what you get back, and also how you're able to perform your job when you need something, you need a favor, you need help, you can get it. So
and I don't.
let's talk about this whole commission thing. I know commission, a lot of people are afraid of it because they're like, I want to have a guaranteed salary, and you are 100% commission, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
bonuses and whatnot. Sure.
How does that work? I mean, why doesn't that make you anxious?
I mean, I certainly did my did the math right before I agreed to it. I mean, one positive is that there are, well, in one way, there are other advisors at the dealership who I could talk to and see what the numbers are and see what comes in every day to make sure it's something that I can sustain myself. But also, again, it
Right.
was kind of starting a job that didn't exist before, in that I'm only working with the one premium brand that kind of just got sprinkled through everybody, through all the advisors prior to me showing up. But having all that as kind of a I don't know if really captive audience is the right word, but I knew that I was going to continue to have work coming in.
Mhm.
Um, so I knew that baseline, whatever that baseline would be, I knew that I wasn't going to be going completely hungry one week, right? I knew that
Right.
at least something was going to be coming in, and I would have that. Have that. I just decided I'd go for it and see what happened,
Mhm.
and it worked. I mean, there are absolutely some weeks. I mean, there's my little ADP app that tells me your pay went up, whatever percentage, up or down. I mean, there are some weeks where it says my pay was down 75% from last week, but
Oof.
also ones that were, that are 300% or whatever, right? So it's,
Right.
I kind of had a vague idea of what came in the door, and I knew that I could make it work, as long as you're not, you know, as long as I'm not living or dying on my one week that I happen to make $300 on it, because it was a slow week or whatever.
Right, right. I do think that commission, if you do the homework to make sure it's a good deal for you,
Yeah.
is one of the ways that you can make a lot more money than you would in a salaried position.
And yeah, and that's that is how it's ended up working too. Is that if you zoom out from the week to week to month to the what you take home over a year, it adds absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
At least in the spot that I'm in, and I'm sure a lot of commission jobs don't end up that way, but I imagine most of them do.
Yeah, the episode we just released was about how to make more money. And one of the things that I say, if you work for a smaller or mid-sized company and you can influence customers coming in, a lot of times you can get a bonus or commission on that work, even if that's not specifically your space. You know, people or something like that that may come in. A lot of times you can get a little bump on that, depending on what type of industry you're in. So a couple other things. I know you are in an industry, Kyle, that has a lot of probably more heated conflict with customers than a lot of industries, because somebody pays, $60,000 for a car. They buy it brand new. They don't expect anything to go wrong. And just like any other type of product, sometimes something goes wrong early and they're mad. And you're the first person that they talk to. How do you
Yeah,
manage those kinds of conversations?
I mean, it's all case by case, right? But over the few years, I've gotten better at gauging people, right? You kind of have to know what they expect, and if you can meet and or exceed, that's then you're doing well. And then not everybody, you're not going to be able to win them all. Every once in a while, I get I just bought this car 2 weeks ago. I want you to buy it back from me and give me a brand new one. I can't.
Yeah, you can't. You're not the guy in charge of that.
Kind of a benefit of being at the dealership, part of that, the dealership guy, is that the expectations aren't always the highest at everybody. so, so if I am the guy that, if they say, oh, whoa, this guy actually does care that my car gets fixed. If I hit him with immediately, I know you just spent $60,000 on this thing. It's broken. Let's get it fixed. I don't know what it is. We're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna get you right back going. Usually that's that little bit of kind of caring and understanding. Hey, this sucks. Yeah, I get it. Let's make it not suck. Is enough to disarm and get people to to make them happy at the end of the day.
So I'm hearing 2 things: major amounts of empathy, "Oh my god, that does suck,"
Yeah,
and we against the problem. You are
yeah,
not the problem. The problem is over there, and you and the customer are over here looking at it. right? And
Yeah.
trying to figure out
Yeah.
how to solve it. So it's we against the problem.
That's something that a lot of service people, at least internally, say is, "Hey, man, I didn't make the car." Now, I don't find that's helpful when I tell if
No.
you're gonna tell a customer that, I don't do that, but that is what we say internally, and that's the truth. I didn't make the car. I didn't
Right.
cause the problem. So, hey, let's this really sucks. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Let's get it sorted out because it's
Yeah.
and that I guess also probably helps. I'm not gonna tell folks that in that many words, but also most people know not to. Most, not all, no, not to immediately attack me for the problem
Yeah.
they're in.
Yeah. So I've got to ask you though, when somebody's yelling at you and hey, I didn't make the car, what thoughts do you think or what do you tell yourself so that you don't get pulled into the drama?
I mean, eh, not to be condescending or anything, but I know that if they're yelling at me, if they're yelling and swearing and pitching a fit, they're being immature about it, right? And I you know how to handle somebody that's like that. I just let them get through it. You know,
Yeah.
Again, just keep with the passive, like, hey, we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this, that, and the other thing. Um, rather than taking it to heart, obviously, is not helpful at all.
Right.
And sometimes, in my experience, usually I find almost every single time, if you just let it out, let them kick and scream,
Yeah.
you don't feed back into it, they're going to come back and apologize. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't count how many people I've had kick and scream and swear at me and call me mean names. And then, either by the end of the call or the next day, "Hey, Kyle, man, I'm sorry about that. I know you're trying to help. I got a little bit heated." I'm like, "Yeah, you're good. You just let them get it out of their system, and usually that's all you need."
Well, and if you had struck back or gotten defensive, then you've taken
Yeah,
away
then
that
it's a fight.
opportunity. Then you've
Well,
taken away the opportunity for them to
then it's
apologize
not
and say, "I'm sorry."
me and Mr. Customer against the problem. It's
Yeah.
Mr. Customer against me and the problem. That's that. It's not. I'm
Yeah.
not at odds with the customer ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's if they want to try and make that, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight with them. And then anybody that and it's that it's not as common as I might you might make it seem. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen very often, but the few that do get heated, again, as long as they come to the realization that I'm trying to help them, usually they calm down.
Well, and surface one more time that these are very expensive cars.
Yeah,
So
sure,
when they
yeah.
break down
And I don't know, as a representative of the company or whatever, I don't know how much I should be saying, but Stellantis has had some quality problems. Yeah, I mean, just I'll leave it at that. Since what,
all automotive companies have quality
maybe
problems. Yeah, they
since
really do.
before the merger, but
Yeah.
post the Peugeot Stellantis merger, there have been some quality problems. So there has been a lot of opportunities for me to get through that situation.
Yeah, and they're lucky with those kinds of problems. That's one thing about manufacturing is when you have those kinds of problems, you want people like Kyle on the other end with the
Sure.
customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've
So,
seen it in my own dealership and also many, anywhere else where it takes that one shot and all right, I'm never going to buy a car from this manufacturer ever again. All right, I'm
yeah.
going to go to get instead of my Alpha, I'm going to go get my Lexus or my BMW next time. See you later. And
Yeah.
that's something that happens all the time,
Yeah.
that, at diffusing those situations
Yeah.
makes a
So,
difference.
sitting where you're sitting, 4.5 years post pandemic, what advice would you give to somebody just out of college, took that first job because it's what they could find? They're not perfectly happy with it. Now what?
I mean, keep on searching for sure. Don't give up on whatever it is you think you're actually looking for, but also realize more than likely at 21, 22, however old you are when you just got out of college, you don't actually know what you're going to be doing. You
Hmm.
might have an idea, but you don't have any idea. You don't really know what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, what the future is going to hold. So where you're at, make the most of it. Figure out what if you're flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, sure, maybe find something else. But if they're more than likely wherever you've landed, there are people that have been there longer, that have made careers out of it, that are making good money. and have some success, figure out what they did and what you can do to move in that direction. And if whatever it was you thought you were looking for comes up, then you've gotten the experience out of what you were doing, and you can move on.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
there's
there's
a downside to it.
a lot to be learned in productivity and in
Yeah,
customer service. In most positions, I tell people to focus on what you're learning. And even if it's really hellish, and I've had
sure.
hellish jobs, focus on what you're learning. And when you start to get antsy, look back. Are you still learning? If you are, stay. If you've learned everything you can learn there and it really is a hellscape, get out. But if it's tolerable and you're still learning and there's opportunity, stick it out. You never know what could happen, right? That's what I would say.
Makes
So,
sense to me. Makes
yeah.
sense.
So I think that's what we've got for today. Thank you so much, Kyle, for being here. I'm Lori Jo Vest. Again, this is Work Mom Says Don't Be an Idiot. We have a website at workmomsays.com where we house all of our episodes. We also have a blog there and an intake form. If you have someone that you would like to suggest as a guest, if you would like to be a guest, or if you'd like to submit a question that I should answer on this podcast, please visit my website at workmomsays.com. I am also an open networker on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. And finally, if you are watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, give me a like, and I'll see you again soon with some more helpful information on how to play the emotional contact sport of business.
Thanks for listening to Work Mom Says.
Don't be an idiot.
For more information, you can email Workmom at lori@workmomsays.com. That's Lori at workmomsays.com. And remember,
Don't be an idiot.